Welcome to the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show. Today is September 5th, 2024. This is our 212th episode. My name is Sunsara Taylor, and I'm joined by Annie Day.
Very glad to be here. Everywhere you turn right now, you're hearing the countdown to the next election, where things will supposedly be decided through the ballot box. Bullshit. This is not just missing the deeper reality of the extreme danger we're facing right now, but also the rare and unprecedented possibility.
That's right. We are just 60 days from a scheduled election between an open fascist, white supremacist, and woman hater, Donald Trump, and a mass murderer, mass incarcerator, Kamala Harris. Now, a lot of people don't want to hear that about Kamala Harris, but that is what she is. A mass murderer and mass incarcerator. She built her career as a prosecutor, locking people up, particularly black and brown people, fueling this country's genocidal mass incarceration. And she is neck deep in the blood of the Palestinian people as she, along with Joe Biden and the entire U.S. ruling class, give their full backing to Israel's genocide in Gaza. You see, just like Donald Trump, Kamala Harris is part of the problem. And what is the problem? Bob Avakian breaks it down.
It's this system of capitalism, imperialism, which Harris serves, which all these politicians have to serve if they want to get in office and stay in office, especially any high office like president. It's this system that is the fundamental cause of all the hell that people are put through, not just in this country, but all over the world. It's this system that needs to be swept away, overthrown through an actual revolution, and replaced by a much better system.
And for all those who still insist that Trump is just so dangerous and so bad that you have to hold your nose and vote for Harris anyway, Trump is dangerous. So what person in their right mind believes that if Harris wins, Donald Trump and his MAGA fascists are just going to peacefully accept it? They are telling you they won't. Not only did they already run a dress rehearsal insurrection on January 6, 2021, not only have they purged the Republican Party of anyone who opposed that, not only are they already working their election interference and whipping up vigilantes to suppress the vote, Trump has literally promised a bloodbath if he loses.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it.
Wake up, people. There is no hiding from the growing danger of all of this. But here's what's even more important to grasp, something that Bob Avakian has identified and is bringing alive on his social media at Bob Avakian Official. The fact that the rulers are so deeply divided, the fact that the norms of this society are increasingly being shattered, the fact that all this is already and will increasingly be drawing many more people into political life, all this makes revolution more possible. But only if people wake up, get out of the bullshit ways of thinking that have them chained to this system, and get with the Revcoms in fighting to make this revolution real. As Bob Avakian has put it,
we don't have to choose between mass murderers and plunderers of people and the environment. We can seize on this rare opportunity to build up the basis for revolution, getting organized now in the thousands, with the basis to win over millions, and go all out to seize on this rare opportunity to make a real emancipating revolution. It's time to cast away foolish and harmful illusions, trying to turn enforcers of a monstrous system like Kamala Harris into some kind of heroes. Time to get with the Revcom Corps for the emancipation of humanity and actively work for the revolution that is urgently needed and is possible in this time we are living in now.
So all this underscores the urgency of what we are bringing you on this show every week, a show about making this revolution real in this time. So Annie, why don't you break down what we have in store on this episode today?
Well, as you said, Sunsara, we're out there fighting to break people from the bullshit ways that this system has people thinking and acting. And we're going to bring you voices from on the ground in Chicago that have been struggling, in particular with Black people, to stop hating on immigrants. As Bob Avakian says, this is nonsense and worse from people who should know better. We're also going to bring you Bob Avakian directly. He's a revolutionary leader. He's brought forward a new communism. And we're going to play a segment of an interview that we did here on this show where he speaks directly to those that this system forces to the bottom of society, what their actual revolutionary potential is. We're going to talk briefly about the horror that's happening in the West Bank, but we're also going to raise your sights and bring you a musical intervention and an announcement from the revolutionary future rock band Outer National.
And be sure to stick around after the show because Annie is going to be joined by somebody else from the campaign to get Bob Avakian's leadership and his social media feed at Bob Avakian Official out throughout society. You guys are going to be doing a live talk back right here on our channel after this episode finishes. So we'll have details at the end of the show on how to connect with that.
So with that, let's get started.
Quit falling for their game of divide and conquer. Black people hating on immigrants is one of the worst things Black people can do after the whole history and the experience Black people have been through in this country. This is nonsense and worse for people who should know better. As the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian says and puts a challenge out to everyone. For any Black people today who are caught up hating on immigrants, do you really want to sound like the rabid white racists from back in the day? That's right. Or do you want to put an end to this madness that you and immigrants have been put through at the hands of this system?
Some people are not going to like that Bob Avakian is calling out the truth.
Instead of being played to hate on and fight against each other, all the people who are oppressed, exploited, misused, abused, tormented, and terrorized under this system, and all people who really care about justice, need to unite to rise up against and put an end to this system that is the cause of all this madness, injustice, and atrocity.
All this pitting people against each other, when what we really have to do is go up against their system that put us in this position in the first place.
Why are immigrants forced to come here from all over the world? That's right. It's because this system that this country is at the top of has fucked up their country worse than what they've done here. And I'll be real specific. Right here in South Shore, people talk about people don't have resources. Why don't people have resources? Why have Black people been cast out? Resources stripped away from whole neighborhoods. People been mass incarcerated, warehoused in prisons, and killed off by the police. It's not the immigrants who are murdering Black people in the street, is it? Is it the immigrants who have been hounding Black people for generations? Is it the immigrants who founded this country on slavery? No, it's this system. It's woven with white supremacy and male supremacy that has caused this for Black people here. It caused migrants to come here from Central and South America.
I believe in equal rights. However they got over here, they're here. So why can't we just all get along?
The U.S. are the real invaders. That's right. The U.S. are the supporters and committers of genocide. So just know we don't have an immigration problem. We have a capitalist imperialist problem. If you're hating on immigrants, you are getting paid. You sound like racists from way back in the day. Don't fall for their game, divide and conquer. Let's unite the people against the real monsters. Who are we? Who's our leader? What's the problem? What's the solution? How do we get out of this mess?
I'm gonna send it to you. Read it, girl.
All right, so you just saw some footage of the Revcom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity in Chicago, taking out Bob Avakian's social media dispatch number 73, called Black People Hating on Immigrants, Nonsense and Worse from People Who Should Know Better. And this social media dispatch from Bob Avakian and the work that the Revcoms there are doing around it has kicked up quite a controversy in the south side of Chicago. Word is getting out. There's people who are digging it. There's people who are offended by it. And it's a good controversy, one that we want. And we are so excited to have three people who are in the midst of taking this out here on the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show today, to talk about their experience there, what they're learning, what they're transforming. Amina, Roosevelt, and Leo, welcome to the Revolution Nothing Less show.
Thank you.
All right. So, Amina, I want to start with you and hear from you in terms of how do you see the importance of what Bob Avakian is putting before people with this challenge and the importance of taking it out across this country, but also in a place like the south side of Chicago with such a concentration of Black people who really are, in many ways, catching a lot of the brunt of the oppression of this system?
Yeah, I mean, this has been extremely, extremely important. I think, if you step back a minute, right, and I do actually feel like there's so much content in the dispatch itself that is worth for everybody to go back to. But it does actually situate this, of like, we're living in a time when it is possible to carry out a revolution that can put an end to this system and bring into being a radically different and much better system where the fundamental needs and the highest aspirations for an emancipating, uplifting way to live can become a reality. And that's true. That's real, but there's a huge problem. There's a huge problem when you have Black people, exactly how the title puts it, Black people hating on immigrants. And really, like, this cannot, be the case where you have a whole section of people who, as again, the title goes on to, that who should know better, who should know better. And this dispatch actually does walk people through a bit of the history of what it has meant to be Black in this country, who should know. And that is where the who should know better, the brunt of what America has done to Black people, to go up against a whole section of people who really, this country has been the principal, a source of responsibility for making it impossible for people to live in their own homelands. And so here you have two sections of people that are literally at the bottom of society, that are that then are whipped up to go up against each other. And there is a real sharp need, and in this dispatch in particular makes a real sharp need as to what kind of people are we going to be? Are we going to be about getting the most crumbs that we're able to get from from this system? Or are we going to be emancipators of humanity and fight for a world where this doesn't have to be the case? And again, we're never again will people be pitted up against each other in a way that's harmful and destructive, and to go up against at a time when it is actually more possible, when a revolution is more possible, to go up against, this whole system and, replace that with a fundamentally different system, and everything that, Bob Avakian work has been about, and everything that's possible here of the unnecessariness of this imperialist system. That's what this dispatch is really, really I think all of us have gotten a much deeper appreciation of just the power of what is concentrated in a very 4-minute audio message that that is having waves of impact that I think we're both beginning to learn from, and that needs to get further amplified.
I want to play just a very sharp juxtaposition of questions that Bob Avakian poses in this dispatch.
So I have a question for any Black people today who are caught up in this hating on immigrants. Do you really want to be like the rabid white racists? Or do you want to put an end to this madness that you and the immigrants are being put through? It is this system that has put Black people through hell for centuries and is still putting Black people through hell.
Leo, this is a very sharp challenge. You guys have been taking it out. I know it's been controversial. Can you give a sense of the response out in the neighborhoods and other people who are hearing it?
Oh boy, has it been controversial. I mean, we've been out just around the organizing center here in South Shore, and right off the bat, we're met with people who just one vehemently disagree. Black people aren't hating on immigrants, and then there's all this Black people saying the worst kinds of things, sounding like the KKK, Southern segregationists, and these rabid white racists, and I mean, just some of the, they don't belong here. They should go back to where they came from. Why this neighborhood, and then there's the why not us, why them, why are you giving them these resources? And, this bullshit of, people being divided and pit against each other, and going for themselves, and, even Black people saying, well, we got to worry about us. We've been at the bottom for so long. We've suffered, horribly. And now it's time for us to get ours, and take it away from people who are getting something, and even me, just being like the center of attack of a lot of this, oh, you're Black, you should be on our side. I'm a revolutionary communist. I'm, standing with the people of the world who are oppressed and exploited horrifically under this system, and fighting for a radically different system in the socialist, society, and, look, you going out to people with such lower sights, and you're actually trying to break through, and actually, bring these people forward as emancipators of humanity.
Roosevelt, I wonder how you see this historically, the divide and conquer that Leo was talking about, and how it's playing out today. What you want to add to the conversation?
First of all, thanks again for having us. Look, it pisses me off, to an extent, to a great extent. And I'm looking at the historic content. You see how the Irish immigrant was put it against the slaves, during slavery. They became indentured servants. Somebody had to be in the top, wanted to be better or feel better than that person, than the Black person, and what BA brought out, in that dispatch, made me think about that as well, with another appreciation again on, what BA, has put together. And when he spoke about the migration from the South during World War I, what was that about, And again, that was about Blacks trying to find someplace better for themselves. It's uncut, whenever they moved, throughout the city, throughout these states, especially in Chicago. I was there, doing some of the migration, but during the later migration, where when a Black person moved into the neighborhood, the white person would move out. They would be hit with all kind of slurs and, all kind of backlash, and that, is basically the same thing, that the so-called immigrants, these, are facing right now today. I mean, it's a strange irony, that there's a reversal of roles. Now we're feeling like, now Blacks are feeling like, man, well, we got to be better than them. They're taking up all our resources. This is the same crap that whites was saying to us. No, I mean, every bit of it. They even formed, as my comrade Leo said, they even formed special groups. Is that what it's going to become to? I mean, is that what it's going to come to? I mean, this is, it's becoming it's a really hot topic, and one that need to be discussed, to be fought over, for us to be fighting over who's going to rule the bottom of that barrel. I mean, that crab in the barrel effect. Who's going to control, the best part of these crumbs, that this oppressive capitalist imperialist system, is dishing out to us. Who's going to be, the headmaster of this, of all of this? I mean, it's insane. It's really insane for a person or for people who have been dealt with so much, to not appreciate when someone else is trying to elevate themselves and pick themselves up, to move in the same line that they have, without the backlash.
How do you see the importance of taking this backwardsness on, actually to any of you, taking this backwardsness on? What is being opened up? I mean, are we just out here saying, oh, it's great, we're showing how backwards all this is? Or is there some transformation and some potential that you see in this for revolution, for people to come forward into the ranks of the revolution, lift their sights and transform?
Well, the key is being re-educated about this entire process, this entire system, and to recognize that there's only one leader, there's only one that's out there in society right now today. There's only one real leader, Bob Avakian, that's pointing constantly the way over and over again, nonstop. The only leader that's been doing this, all these other leaders is not doing that, because they want to merge and become one with the same oppressive system. They want to be in line with oppressing one another. The same thing that the migrants is facing right now today that we faced many years ago, is part of being a part of that same exact system. And Bob Avakian is trying to form a better way with the only scientific way, to eradicate this system, and to free him, to emancipate humanity, like no other. So, I mean, that's my opinion.
And Roosevelt, go ahead.
Get charged.
Go ahead, Amina.
Oh, well, I was going to speak to your question. That, I guess I put it two ways. One, I think, the excerpt that you played, right, is really sharp. It does kind of, it's worth reiterating, because we actually have been kind of putting this very sharply to everybody who's like provoked and struck by the title and does a double take. We go after it very sharply, we just pose the question, look, for any Black people today who are caught up on hating on immigrants, do you really want to be like the rabid white racists? Or do you want to put an end to this madness that you and the immigrants are being put through? And that's a very sharp challenge that actually does divide people out. Some people are like, why? Yeah, well, if Trump will back this, then I'm for that. I'm for that whole program. But a lot of people, or handfuls of people, including through the waging of that struggle, have been like, have even appreciated the title and said, it's absolutely true. This is absolutely happening. Whether it's their family members that are going through this, even yesterday, someone was like, oh, this is a very intense topic, that's actually dividing a lot of people up, and people are sharply challenged, we're like, really the content of what's in here, instead of being played to hate and fight against each other, all the people who are oppressed, exploited, misused, and abused, and tormented, and the rest of that sentence that I won't finish reading, but that people should go to hear the full dispatch. Really, like people kind of jolting out of like their paralysis of like, I have to choose between one or another, and actually, no, I have to be about, we have to come together and unite. And there actually has been a very broad sentiment, a very deep sentiment of like, man, we got to stop this, hating amongst each other. And we got to go up against their system, and really the simplicity of like, we don't have to live this way. We need a revolution. And that actually has changed the dynamics, including having people on the spot feeling like, oh, I have to both read the whole flyer. That's like number one criteria. You should read the content, but actually read the whole flyer, but then also feeling like I need to find out more, and actually having people on the spot subscribe to, the various different, avenues of social media, and really kind of getting connected with an organization, the Revcom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity. And that has been the way of cleaving it by way of actually very sharply cleaving it by way of actually drawing for people who, through the course of this discussion are sorting themselves out and are saying, no, I'm with this. I think this type of discussion matters, and I think this needs to happen.
So my final question for any of you is what lessons are you drawing from this, and how do you see the potential of Bob Avakian's social media, his ongoing leadership at Bob Avakian Official, both on this particular hot controversial topic, but in an ongoing way? What are the broader lessons you would draw from this in this time? Amina, you want to speak to that?
You know, this question of repolarizing all of society, you know, again, at a time of just enormous instability, like, you know, here we're like 2 months away from a not normal election, you know, and everything is coming up for grabs, and everybody, you know, I just, you know, the whole society is like, you know, right beneath the surface and sometimes more than right beneath the surface is convulsing and getting ready to erupt in a more metaphorical sense, but, you know, also in a literal sense. And I think, you know, what we have begun to experience, you know, with going out very sharply with and trying to cleave the discussion in a way that's actually, you know, fighting for emancipation. You know, I think this has been just, you go into the very you know, not calm waters, and you really try to cleave that open, you know, excuse my metaphors, but you really try to cleave that open in a way in which you're really fighting with people like, no, this is our moment. This is our shot. We got to go, and we got to break the hold of this system. You know, we need a revolution, and there's leadership for that revolution that you need to engage, that you need to get into, that you need to take up. And, you know, I mean, this is one of like 81 dispatches that are on the social media account, you know, which anybody like going and scrolling through the whole of it is just going to be a transformative process of, again, you know, what is our life going to be about, you know, and really like at a time to grab hold of like the possibility of like actually overthrowing this system. That is what the guidance in these dispatches are actually doing. And it's going at all sorts of different questions that are just hanging people back, you know, whether it be the Democratic Party, whether it be, you know, the question on the role of women, whether, you know, it be the question of the environment. Like, it just really is, it is so true. You know, Bob Avakian is unlike all the endless stream of bourgeois politicians. And this is why, you know, people got to follow his account. People got to go dig into it, got to take this up, and we really got to, you know, make history. And I think this is the guidance that's actually being driven. This is, you know, the leading edge of our strategy right now. And I think the more and more we're stepping out on a daily basis, the more and more there's a deep appreciation of just what difference it actually could make. If there's millions and tens of millions of people engaging the content of this and acting on it. And I think that's one, you know, kind of macro lesson that I would extract. But obviously, you know, there's a lot of richness and texture to all of, you know, kind of even in a week span, you know, kind of what we've been deepening.
All right. Well, listen, I want to thank all of you for making the time. Most of all, for getting out in the streets, spreading this from Bob Avakian, and taking the time to talk with us. I want to give a shout out to the studio audience I know is gathered with you in the Revolution Corps, Revcom Corps' organizing center in the South Shore of Chicago. I know you guys are getting ready to go back out into the neighborhood after this. So go and I hope you continue to stir things up there and carry forward this revolution.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having us on.
All right. Take care. All right. So if I was in Chicago or anywhere near Chicago, I would be at the Revolution Organizing Center on September 8th. That's Sunday at 4 p.m. this Sunday, because they are going to host a discussion, debate, a wrangle to get into Bob Avakian's dispatch number 73 that you've just been hearing about. It is going to be a wild scene, invigorating, very liberating. And so if you can get there, you should get there. We'll put the information on the screen. And with that, we want to move now to share a portion of the interview that we did here on this show with Bob Avakian 2 years ago. In this portion, we ask him to speak directly to those who catch the hardest hell under this system, those who are trapped at the bottom. How does he see their role in this revolution that is so urgently needed? Well, you've led us right back to something we wanted to return to before wrapping up this interview, which is the tremendous potential that it's clear you see in those at the very bottom of society youth in particular at the base of society, caught up catching the worst hell, the youth and others in the prisons, which you said the brother on the block or on the street, people who right now their guns are pointed at each other to way too large a degree. All of the vision of what you've described of what's possible to do with state power is not going to happen if we don't make a revolution. And yet this is a section of people who are very critical to the revolution we need. So I wanted to give you, and we wanted to give you one further opportunity to speak directly to those who are catching the worst hell and treated as the worst of the worst. What is their role in this revolution? And to those going out to them, how should we do this?
Well, I say there's both a personal dimension to this and a larger scientific dimension to it. I know that things have gone on for generations now. I mean, I know some people told us, well, you can't bring forward these youth. They might have been revolutionary once back in the day of the Black Panther Party or the 1960s, but there's been generation after generation caught up in this bad shit now, so there's no potential anymore. Yes, there is potential, and in one sense, it's exactly because they have been caught up in it generation after generation that there is potential. But you're not going to see it if you're just looking on the surface and what people are into. You have to go a little deeper with people. And I'll just introduce a personal dimension to this, which is very real for me. When I see, and whenever I get a chance to interact, and I do sometimes with some of these youth you're talking about, I see people that I knew when I was coming up. Not that I came out of the same place they did, but people that I knew, and I know what their potential was. I've talked about this before. I've written about it before. I had a friend, Billy, who got into the life and got killed, while he's still in his 20s, caught up in a lot of bad shit, and did bad shit. But also had a whole other side to him. Had a curious mind, a sharp mind, had a lot of very good, sentiments toward people, ways of relating to people. And, you could not have told me that somebody like that couldn't be transformed to become a revolutionary, because I knew better. And that's just a personal, and I knew other people in the same situation. I'm very fortunate to know people in this situation, people who open their hearts to me the same way I did with them, that's what it means to be friends. And you learn what's deeper beneath the surface of what's going on and why people are into the bad shit they're in. And, how constricted, how limited and confined their lives are and their choices are, in terms of how things are presented to them. And so that's like on the basis of that personal experience, I don't care that generations have gone, I care. But it doesn't tell me because generations have gone on that these aren't basically the same people. They are the same people, and when I interact with them, whenever I get a chance, and it's far too rare, but it's very precious, I know they're the same people. So that's on the personal level, from personal experience. But more scientifically, you can analyze, where do the actual interests of these youth lie? Look, I've spoken this before. Look what it means when, even for a brief time, people in this situation rise above this. And I mentioned this prisoner strike in Alabama, and people are talking about how they've overcome the divisions of gangs and cliques and this kind of thing. It's not going to last because of the conditions they're in, but it's very significant and precious when it happens. Or, I've made this point about the truce that followed, the gang truces that followed the 1992, L.A. rebellion, which really wasn't just L.A. rebellion, it spread around the country. And, how hard people tried to overcome generations of divisions and back and forth revenge. To me, one of the most inspiring and moving things I've seen in decades was the picture after the L.A. rebellion. Besides, blacks and Mexicans together tonight with graffiti, there is a picture of a blood and a crip with their arms around each other. And that wasn't just for show. That was something real and something deep. And they really tried to overcome this, and they put forward a program, but their program was just a program that had no basis, and it was also just actually mirroring this existing system. It was a program to establish more black businesses, to enable some of these people caught up in the gangs to get into, the economy by way of business and so on. And there's no economic basis for that on a broad scale. And it wouldn't lead to the liberation of people either, because, a few people might get into business, but then, most people can't. And plus the ones who do are going to be employing other people and exploiting them, whether they mean to or not. But still, look how hard people tried. And there was a prisoner, strike in California a number of years ago, the same kind of thing. Yeah, the gangs are still in there, and yeah, there's bad shit, but they rose up and overcame that for a short period of time. And that shows the potential, and it also shows that there's something deeper in people than what they're doing every day and what they're caught up in. That they reach for something better, something higher. They want something different, and if you get people away from what they're caught up in and talk to them heart to heart, they will tell you in many cases, most people want something different, even if they're caught up in this and they don't know how to get out of it. And that's where we come in, the revolutionaries, the people who have come to understand that there's a whole different way. We have to go to these youth and others. Yes, we need to go to the educated youth. You're not going to make a revolution without people from the educated youth. That's very important for the revolution, including critical and creatively thinking people who have a capacity to, work and grapple with complicated ideas. We need that. But your question is very much to the point about, these more, youth down on the street, the hardcore youth, there is burning within them because nobody wants to live the way these youth are being forced to live. You could take maybe a few, really into it, and that this is really their thing, but nobody, if you're talking about, I shouldn't say nobody, but overwhelmingly, people don't want to live the way people we're talking about are forced to live. But this system, we could go into why and how. It deindustrialized a lot, all these areas that people live in, like the south side of Chicago. Used to be these factories, a gigantic steel plant, U.S. Steel, that people used to work at. Gary, Indiana, which is now a ghost town, had the biggest steel plant in the entire world, I think, going back a few decades. And a lot of black people worked there. Those places are closed down. These youth coming up, they have no future. And that's because of the workings of this system. And there is a burning down there. It may be simmering. It may be just a flickering flame, but there is a burning for something better. And it is up to us to provide the vehicle and the means for all these masses of people in this situation, including these youth, to become part of fighting for something better. And yes, it goes back to the previous thing. We're not going to do it without a lot of struggle. You got to break through the surface. You got to break through the bullshit. You got to break through even the hardcore shit to get down to where people really live and feel. And then you got to struggle with them about what your life should really be all about. What is really worth dedicating your, and if necessary, even giving your life to? Not that we take that lightly. We certainly don't. We understand that, as Mao said, of all things in the world, people are most precious. And people's lives are precious to us. But even if you have to give your life, give it for something worthwhile, something that's going to mean something for you and people like you all over the world and for the little ones. And don't tell me you don't love the little ones. I see you out there pushing the little ones around. I see the pride that you have in the little ones. So don't tell me you don't care, because I know different and I know better. And there is a way, but we got to give people the way. And that means a tremendous amount of struggle. It's not just handing them away and they're going to take it. It's a tremendous amount of struggle. And we have to also, especially in this rare time when revolution becomes more possible, we have to get right down on the ground with them and explain in terms they can understand, and then get in more into the complexities as we go along. But get to the basic thing that there is a way out of all this. And right now we have more opportunity than we've had in your lifetime or my lifetime to do this. And we can't afford to be wasting this time and this opportunity in bullshit. We got to get with this revolution so we can get all this shit off of our backs and make a future for the next little kids you're pushing along that's worth living for, so they don't have to go through what you are going through now, which isn't what you wanted to go through, but it's what the system has put you in the place of to have to go through. We have to go and present this to them in a living way. There is a way out of this. It's not an easy way. It's not a guaranteed way, but it's a real way. It's a real possibility, especially in this time when we're talking about where the conditions are more favorable for revolution, even as they're tending right now towards something terrible. With the ruling class divided and fighting each other, with society being ripped apart, with the potential for this to rip apart all the dominant institutions in society. You know, one of these youth said, well, you know, if I get with your revolution, my chances of being taken out are just about 100%. But if I do what I'm doing, going up against people like me, maybe my chances are 50-50. Well, that's just wrong, like I've said before. You know, it's wrong in terms of what your life should be about, and it's wrong in terms of, you know, the possibilities for revolution. Because we have a real strategy, and we have a real, you know, method to grapple with the problems that lie on the road to revolution and actually break through and gather more and more forces to where a revolutionary struggle for power could actually have a chance to win. And you can't ask for more than that. You can't ask for more than a chance to win to get this whole fucking thing off your back. And this is what we're aiming for, and this is what we got to take to people and explain to them and struggle like hell with them about what speaks to their deeper feelings and hopes and aspirations, not just the shit they're caught up in on the surface. So I say, both from personal experience, which is limited, I know, but it tells me something, but also by scientific analysis and by learning from all different kinds of sources and getting every bit of knowledge I can, that there is a potential there. And we have to go and make that potential become a reality and struggle with people to become emancipators of humanity. And we start winning some, it's going to provide the basis to win more. And it's going to become a pole of attraction. And what people would really like to jump to will start getting expressed when they see a growing force out there that's real. And so this is my answer. We got to, you know, we have what these youth and the mass of people need, but it includes a lot of struggle with them, and we have to go and take that to them and wage that struggle, because this is for ending all the shit that they're being forced to go through, and all the shit that humanity is being put through and that they're threatened with now, with the destruction of the environment and this danger of nuclear war among these imperialists. We have to go to the people and give them the means to do what deep down they would love to do if they could understand scientifically that there's a basis for it. So that's what I would say.
If you have allowed the Israeli slaughter of the Palestinian people to become background noise, wake the fuck up. This is a genocide. It is happening before the eyes of the whole world. It is funded and armed by the U.S., and it is intensifying by the day. Not only has Israel continued to bomb Gaza back to the dark ages, with American-bought bombs murdering over 40 people just in the last 24 hours, including a prominent doctor, but in the West Bank, Israel has bulldozed 70% of the roads in the city of Jenin. Think about that. How are people supposed to get anywhere? How are they supposed to travel to and from the hospitals amid the sniper fire and the destruction? Israel's destroyed the sewage systems, the internet access, and 80% of the water system. People can't get food. They can't get water, and that's just in Jenin. Last week, Israel launched a ferocious and a deadly rampage in 2 other cities in the occupied West Bank, which is home to over 3 million Palestinians. Hundreds of Israeli soldiers in columns of armored vehicles and bulldozers backed by drones and warplanes have killed at least 33 people in the West Bank, including 7 children. Israel is ordering mass evacuations from areas that it is shooting, and then shooting many of those who attempt to flee. They are targeting journalists. They are targeting children. In Tulkarm, snipers killed a 14-year-old boy walking with his father. They shot him in the neck from a distance, and he was unarmed. His father was shot in the waist. Dozens and dozens of Palestinians have been arrested, subjected to torture and indefinite detention. Israel is destroying the basic ability for people to survive, attempting to purge Palestinian people from the land entirely. And despite the gentle finger wags and the tis-tis-tis coming from genocide Joe Biden and war crimes backing Kamala Harris, the arms and the financial support to Israel has not stopped flowing. In her first interview since she was anointed Democratic nominee for president, Vice President Kamala Harris made her position very clear.
Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. But let's take a step back. October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped. As I said then, I say today, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we have got to get a deal done. We were in Doha. We have to get a deal done. This war must end.
But no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done.
So let's dispense with Kamala's bullshit. This is not a war. It is genocidal ethnic cleansing. And when she says Israel's right to defend itself, what she means is free license to carry out this genocidal ethnic cleansing. Since early in Israel's genocidal response to October 7th, it is Israel that has stonewalled a ceasefire, while the U.S. provides billions after billions of dollars for bombs and missiles and diplomatic cover for Israel by blaming Hamas for lack of ceasefire progress. Look, the situation in Palestine did not begin on October 7th. It began in 1948 with the Nakba, Israel's terrorist ethnic cleansing of Palestine, and Israeli violence has continued ever since to defend an apartheid state built literally on the blood and the bones and the land of the Palestinian people. Listen to what Kamala Harris is telling you.
No change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done.
No change in the handoff from genocide Joe to war crimes Kamala. No change in the bombs, the missiles, the drones in Gaza and the West Bank. No change in the never-ending diplomatic whitewash. No change in the dehumanization and enabling genocide against the Palestinian people. Wake the fuck up. Act to stop this and confront the reality. This is the cold truth, the liberating truth behind what Bob Avakian says in his recent dispatch, Revolution number 79.
The price for supporting the Democrats is to become complicit in their backing of Israel in its genocidal slaughter of Palestinians. and the other monstrous crimes continually perpetrated by this system, a price that no decent person should be willing to pay. Enlisting in the cause of the Democratic Party is enlisting as willing accomplices in the crusade of U.S. capitalism imperialism to remain the world's #1 exploiter, oppressor, and plunderer of people and the environment, even at the cost of risking the future and the very existence of humanity. There has to be a better way, and there is. Revolution to overthrow this truly monstrous system of capitalism imperialism and bring into being a fundamentally different and much better system and way of life in the interest of humanity as a whole.
All right, so we just heard Bob Avakian once again telling it like it is and lifting people's sights to the real revolution that is possible in this time. And this underscores the importance of the campaign that we are fighting to break out in society right now, to make Bob Avakian's voice, his ongoing revolutionary leadership, and his social media at Bob Avakian Official known throughout society, listened to, engaged, and debated by millions, followed actively by thousands, many thousands who are taking it up as active leadership, getting organized into the ranks of the revolution to make this revolution real. We want to take just a moment to talk about this campaign a little bit more and the talk back that we're inviting all of you to be part of right after this show.
That's right. Stick around. We're going to have myself and one or two others from the national campaign who've been leading this, and answering your questions and talking about how you can get involved. I think if you open the show today talking about what we're facing, the fact that the whole society could come up for grabs soon, and we're facing a situation where it could be a nightmare on top of a nightmare, or there's the actual potential, a real opening in this country to overthrow this whole system. The most important thing in being able to seize that opening is to impact society with Bob Avakian's voice, with his leadership that he's providing, constantly and consistently through his social media at Bob Avakian Official, impacting millions, shaking people awake, getting them out of the bullshit ways that this system has people thinking and acting like we heard about on the ground in Chicago, and bringing forward and training the thousands now who need to be leading this revolution. Amina talked about this earlier as well. So that's what this campaign is aimed at doing, is aimed at raising funds so that we can do online advertising to reach way beyond what we can reach now. And what we've begun to do has had an impact. I talked about that last week. You can read more about that on revcom.us, but it's still very small compared to what's needed. So that means going to fight with people about where they're putting their funds. It means going to fight with people about what are they putting on their social media. Are they just curating their lifestyle? Or are they going to use whatever platform they have to spread Bob Avakian's voice exactly, to tell it like it is and to raise people's sights and to point them to the kind of revolution we need in this situation? It does mean struggling with people very hard. And then opening our arms really wide to people who aren't sure what all they think, but want to see this voice out there contending. And I think what you see on the ground in Chicago right now is exactly why this campaign needs to spread even further. Because when Bob Avakian's voice is impacting people, it sets the right terms. Reform versus revolution. Getting in on this system versus getting rid of this system and overthrowing it for real. Okay, so just very briefly, stick around for the talk back afterwards, and we'll answer your questions, your political questions, technical questions, and we'll try to paint a vision of how we can work together to get this campaign lofted to another level. But I'll just say very briefly now, over these next days, people are going to be geared up for this actually what is going to be a high stakes debate between MAGA fascist Trump and war crimes Kamala, but not high stakes in the way they mean. And they're going to be training people in all kinds of bullshit all exactly on the terms of this system. Oh, who's going to be the best for America? Acting like it's a normal election when just the opposite is true, right? So we want to cut through that with the actual truth. There's a new social media dispatch from Bob Avakian, Revolution number 81, Why I Am Not Running for President. Go listen at Bob Avakian Official. We want to make a big deal out of that, as much as we can. Posters on the walls, passing it out hand to hand, playing it from loud ass cars and sound trucks, and then raising funds so that we can advertise this in the midst of all the online chatter. Tuesday night, while the debate is running, if you want to sign up, go to revcom.us. We're going to form a national team of social media warriors that are going to go contend in all the social media platforms and cut through the noise and the bullshit and the confusion that's spread by the proponents of this system. And, so that's what we need to have a big impact right now. We need to fight for this right now, urgently. Really, it is a matter of the future.
Yeah. So right when this video ends, when our episode is over, this episode will end and you go to our channel, you click the channel button, the icon, the avatar with the Revcoms, or go to youtube.com/the Revcoms, however you want to get there. We will have a live stream going. Click it, and Annie will be there with others to get into this right after the episode ends. So to conclude today's show, we are so excited to share with you the first single released, a video and song from Outer National, the revolutionary future rock band's new album that's coming out next week, called Welcome to the Revolution, which is also the title of the song that we're going to share with you at the end of in just a moment. Outer National, as I said, they are a revolutionary future rock band, a beautiful group of musicians. Miles Soleil, their lead singer, is a very good friend of this show. He's been a guest before. We've featured some of his performances, including with some international artists. He's just put his whole heart into raising people's sights and forging a culture, a future culture, a liberating culture, a culture that people can dance to and fight to and dream of a different and a better world. And we need so much more of this. So I'm really excited that the album is coming out. They have shows coming out.
They do. They're going to be live in concert in New York on September 19th at Le Poisson Rouge and in Los Angeles on September 28th at the Paramount. You do not want to miss this. I mean, in a culture that's so soul-sucking and depressing and degrading, having the chance to come together and listen to this band is really just, tremendously special. Get your ticket. They're going to be playing with Chad Smith on drums, who played on the album that we can get next week. Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who's been performing with them. One other thing I want to shout out Outer National for doing before we play the song is they just got back from Helsinki, where they played a really inspiring concert with international musicians from different parts of the world coming together to stand up against the genocide in Gaza being carried out by Israel. And at the same time, and this is so rare right now, to stand up against the theocratic reactionary regime in Iran and its enslaving repressive measures against women and really against all of society. And to stand against both of them at the same time is so refreshing. And the whole spectrum of artists were just really beautiful and inspiring. And if you go to their Instagram at Rhymes of Resistance, you can see some of the photos. You can catch little snippets of the performance. It was beautiful.
Okay, so with that, we want to thank the Revolution Nothing Less crew for putting the show together today. We want to thank you for tuning in. Leave a comment below. Hit the like button, subscribe, come back next week. We'll have more to get into. And with that, we want to join Outer National in welcoming you to the revolution.
With my head held high, I too have known the feeling of fear, my favorite question being why. Words of the wise, the way it falls and howls. The past is happened, we have the presence of fear, and know the future is coming now. What is happening with us?
We have changed and we are changing. The world rearranging. To all the people all across the world, I bring a message to you as true as that sun. Welcome to the revolution. Mission. They wanted what? They can have it. They only wanna eat me alive. I don't want no piece of the pie. I really don't need my own plane in the sky. A butterfly, pretty as can be, like a spider. You don't want it with me. Earthquakes, lightning, and southern tornadoes. That wind in my face as the northern air blows. Doctors and back alleys and air raids that don't stop. Hunted like animals, chased by the cops. Sweatshops and conquering cages. I know your sincere hopes. I've read your back pages. Craving for connection feels like no one's left but you. And now you ask yourself, where is the new? You want the wizard? You wanna see his face? That's how it's haunted. Living in the haze of the lizards. Been here 4 days, I smell the burning bonfires out on Broadway like a crime. You hear in the night or like the time. You just did what drives it to the place. Stand up tall, the crush so hard, but stop for too long. Out of the pain and into the fire. Dog on a leash, man on a wire. Where we sit and how we talk. The books we read and while we walk. The days that pass and how you live. The curiosity of the kids. The sky above, the lava below. Got my reasons, I am ready to go. I'm ready. to the